Good evening. We'll call the Mandan Park District Board meeting to order. Today is August 12th, 2024. We were at the City Hall. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None.
Okay. All right, this time we'll open public communication from visitors. Seeing no visitors in our audience tonight, I will close that portion. Moving on to minutes, approval of the July 8th, 2024 regular meeting minutes and the July 29th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Can we entertain a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve of July 8th, 2024 and regular meeting minutes and the July 29th, 2024 special meeting minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Freilich.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, moving into item number one. We received some boat bids. We'll consider to approve our boat ramp bids. Jesse Kist is not able to make it tonight, but he will join us online if technology works.
Okay, I'll go first though, Commissioners, and as we bring Jesse up. Just as a reminder, this grant, we obviously had public hearings on this project, but this grant, as a reminder, is a shared project between the city, county, and the parks. And we did receive an $800,000 grant from the Department of Parks and Rec, their Sovereign Lands grant. So the total project that we have available for funds is $1.6 million. Before you today is good news. We had two bids for the general. Low bid was Prairie Excavating, the amount of $1,079,683, and then Edling Electric in the amount of $49,500. Puts us at right around $1.129 million. So we definitely came in under budget, along with fees associated with A2S. I think was around $176,000. So we're roughly leaving us with about, excuse me, $280,000 that we are under budget. As you know, in the base bid, as we mentioned, there are items that we didn't want in the base bid so that we could see if we could add things in case bids came in high. In our situation, they came in exactly what we needed. So the base bid includes, obviously, the ramp for the boat ramp, concrete and riprap, parking lot grid and parking lot stall lines, tree and stump removal, dirt excavation removal, culvert replacement, entrance gate barrier, security lights. All of that is kind of what we needed as the base to get the boat ramp in. Items that we're looking at that are not in, but we will evaluate in December, hopefully if we can get this project in this fall and get it completed. We definitely will add the boat dock, the kayak latch. We talked about a fish cleaning station, maybe a bridge connecting it with some comfort stations connecting the north-south properties for the walkers that maybe aren't using the boat ramp. That will be a city, county, and parks kind of committee that will go back together and prioritize those items and bring them before you back in December or January. And then hopefully we can purchase those items directly. A lot of those things don't require a contractor to do that, so we didn't want to have the markup on it. But overall, pretty happy with that. To recap, and Jesse's texting me right here, see if he has technical. He's not able to hear anything on his end, but we'll hopefully get him in here shortly. But going back to the ramp itself, as we mentioned in the beginning, there were a few things that we had to get done to be required to move forward with this ramp. Obviously, the quick claim deed has been done. The 408 permit has been approved that we did not need, so that's not needed. We had some language changes in the covenants from North Dakota Department of Transportation. That has been done. It has been filed with the county. The 404 permit is pending approval. We did, as in your packet, you see the email that we did receive authorization to proceed. Again, is that going to take 1, 2, 3 weeks to get completed? We're not sure. The Sovereign's land permit we have not gotten yet, but we did get notified today that the floodplain permit was approved. And so we have basically one permit that we need, the Sovereign's land, and then obviously the in writing from the Corps of Engineers is really the only one that we're missing. So overall, the project, we were pretty happy with the bids.
We have a verbal go on that permit, is that right?
Correct,
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know if Jesse's able to give some insight on the ramp design and as far as how the construction will be, if he's able to get in. We'll see, take a moment and see if he's able to log in.
Hey Jesse, is this better? can hear you.
You can hear us? We can hear you.
Awesome.
Hi, Jesse. Cole just gave us a rundown. I don't know if you could hear him, kind of what's led up to
No,
this.
I couldn't hear anything. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Okay, well, go ahead. We see the letter that you sent us today. Anything to add or anything that we maybe haven't heard before that you need to share with us?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything specific to add at this point, but certainly happy to answer any questions you have or work through any concerns you might have.
I guess one of the things, I looked at your letter and there were some things in the bidding process that I guess we overcame, but I think one of the requirements was some experience with a boat ramp before pouring a ramp. How do these two companies, before we accept or entertain a motion to accept a bid, what kind of experience do these companies have?
So the bidding documents included an option for the owner to request bidders to provide a breakdown of experience or relevant experience with these types of projects. We did reach out to Prairie View and talk to them about experience. We did not, at this point, reach out to Strata, the other bidder. And we really just had more informal discussions with Prairie View regarding their experience and the experience of their concrete subcontractor. The experience that they had or discussed, with relevance to this boat ramp project wasn't specifically a boat ramp. So they had other relevant, similar site work experience and concrete projects that they felt were similar type slabs and so on. But they did not have boat ramp construction experience specifically.
Can you kind of give an explanation on how a boat ramp is poured and then placed, I guess?
Yeah, so the ramp itself will be likely poured in at least two sections. So there's the first section is what we've been calling the push section. So really it's a fairly standard reinforced concrete slab, 8 inches thick. So it would be formed similar to maybe like I guess for practical purposes, let's just think of like a driveway poured above the water, or formed, reinforced, and then poured and cured. And then that section gets pushed into the river. So the earthwork, everything would be in place in the river. And then the contractor would use equipment. I think typically it gets done with a couple, maybe 2 dozers, and they get on the uphill side of the concrete and slowly push it down into the river until maybe a few feet is left out of the water. Then that portion is in place. And then they proceed with really just doing the same thing again uphill of that section. So that's really the portion that I think would be different than maybe other projects that this team or this contractor has done. It's really the pushing portion. So the slab itself is not reinforced in a special way or poured in a way that's different from other reinforced concrete slabs. It's really just that pushing the ground prep and then pushing it out into the river and making sure that it ends up in the place that it's supposed to. It's square. Obviously, everything under it, the base course is done properly.
And Jesse,
But
Just to
Yeah,
confirm, one thing I wanted to make sure the board was aware, that first section of pour, how long does that have to cure before and meet testing before they push it into the water?
Yeah, so we don't, we won't necessarily, mandate a certain duration. I think we'll work with the contractor to some extent on the means and methods, and there are different. I guess to clarify that there are ways that you can cure the concrete faster, but I'd say for these purposes, we could assume it may be somewhere between 10 and 30 days that will need to cure before it's pushed in. Probably closer to the 30 days, maybe 28 days. But there are ways to do it faster.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jesse?
Jesse, this is Lane. A real quick question is, since they've never really done this, are you have any major concerns about them doing it?
Sorry, Lane, I was on.
Do you have any major
No, I heard you.
Okay.
So, no, I don't know. I don't know that I have, or I don't have major concerns. Would it be ideal if the contractor had constructed a dozen boat ramps? That would have benefits, right? I would certainly not complain if that was the case, but given that it's really just that pushing portion that is exceptionally unique to a ramp, and really the rest of the site is well within the experience set of the contractor. So it's really just that one very important aspect, right, being the ramp itself. But no, I wouldn't say that I have any serious concerns. I think it's something we'll certainly coordinate closely with the contractor on. We'll have staff checking on the site. I'll be coordinating with the contractor throughout the process. I'll be going up to the site frequently, and we'll certainly work with them and make sure that everything is done correctly and that the end product's exactly what we have designed and spec'd out in the plans.
Thank you.
Jesse, maybe what I'm hearing is that you guys will, I guess, assure that it's done the correct way. The only thing maybe the drawbacks would be that it might take longer if they need to redo anything that are not according to your specs and tests that you do. Is that maybe kind of what I'm hearing?
Absolutely, right. It's the contractor's responsibility to construct and install what we have called out in the plans and specs, and we'll have engineers on site, at the very least part-time throughout the entire project, making sure that process is being followed. And in discussions with the contractor, I am confident that they're going to work with us, work with the park district, and their goal is to leave you with a great product.
Thank you. Anything else for Jesse? Nope. Okay. The board's wishes.
Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you, Jesse.
I recommend approval of bids to Prairie View Excavating in an amount of $1,079,683 and Edling Electric in the amount of $49,500, contingent on securing permits for 404 and Sovereign's Land, period.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Mutter, second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Commissioner Melhoff?
Yes.
Commissioner Freilich?
Yes.
Commissioner Mutter?
Yes.
Yes from me as well. Motion carries. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to item number 2. Presentation from Andrew Strami on proposed open space ordinance. Hello, Andrew.
Good evening, President Meshke, Commissioners. I have a presentation to give to you tonight. If I could get the slides up on the screen, that would be great. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about some proposed changes that would be implemented into the city's code of ordinances specific to open space dedication. So if I could just get my slides up on the screen, that would be great. I don't think I can do that over here. Excellent. Thank you for bearing with me. As I said, we'll be going through a couple recommended changes to the open space ordinance that we have right now. The current practice the City of Mandan and the Park District collaborate on is to assess a building permit fee at the time of a building permit being taken out. So when a new subdivision's been developed, or when a home is rebuilt, or a commercial property developed, rebuilt, or multifamily, fees are assessed onto that permit. $500, $250, $1,000 are the fees that we currently collect. Couple issues with this approach that you might be able to identify, say if a subdivision's already been constructed, already been laid out, the fees being charged to people who live in a subdivision that may not have a park, and it's kind of hard to tie that fee to a benefit, particularly with its purpose being for neighborhood parks. It's led to some challenges in the acquisition of parkland, specifically neighborhood-sized parkland, as the city's grown. We completed a code audit of peer communities. Moorhead, Aberdeen, Minot, West Fargo are some of the cities that we kind of wanted to stack ourselves up against. And these communities are requiring parkland to be dedicated at no cost to park districts at the time of development as sort of a cost of doing business way to speak. So we would prefer a process that would require that dedication to take place. We feel that there are some advantages that come with doing this at the speed of development and with the developer. From my perspective, it would be they're engaging a surveyor, they're engaging a civil, they're laying out the subdivision, and you could potentially kind of tap into that existing workload and perhaps lie out a park lot that works for you guys, that is holistically designed for that subdivision, for example. So they're already having all these professionals designing most of the subdivision, and we can kind of piggyback on that being one of the big perks. I think a switch to requiring a dedication via platting process would help with. How many parks are we talking about? The future land use plan that was adopted between the city and the park district in 2018 indicated that, and this is a typo, that 43 new acres of neighborhood parks should be required and developed in Mandan by 2030. As far as I know, there have not been any new parks, so that goal is still out there. The future land use plan did also identify and incorporate within it a recommendation that park dedication be the approach that the city and the park district jointly take to work at this goal. This map shows where the parks would be. So we're not talking about a park on every corner, for example. We're talking about one north of the new high school, one north of the 47 acres, one out by Rough Rider, two west of Mandan, one in the Keitles area, and one in Plainview. It's pretty spread out for all intents and purposes. The future land use plan projects that the area mapped on the screen won't even be fully built out by 2030. We know that. So this isn't something that's going to result in a ton of parks coming down all at the same time, of course, but we're trying to take a new approach to help us both hit this goal. The rationale that has been presented for change on this would be basically a concern that there are insufficient parks being developed in new subdivisions, the most recent, to my knowledge, being Stargazer Park, which opened prior to 2013. This approach would hopefully alleviate some of the burden that's placed on The city and the park district at the same time of kind of trying to hunt down at the pace of development land for a park. It's sort of difficult when someone's chopping at the bit to get something going, for them to make something available. So if there isn't kind of an upfront design standard to design around, it can be already a little bit too late in some ways. Of course, the future land use plan does identify a goal of parkland being dedicated in new subdivisions to enhance quality of life. Studies do show that there are ties to maintained property values, sustainability, increased physical activity, and a sense of community being fostered because of this. So those are some of the reasons that change is being proposed. It's recommended that at the time of subdivision and development, that 5% to 7% of the land be dedicated to neighborhood parks. Neighborhood parks are in our future land use plan as that park that's 5 to 20 minutes away. It's not going to be huge. It's going to have maybe a playground and a picnic shelter. Most of them are around 1.5 to 3 acres, and that's what at least was put into the future land use plan as kind of the standard for that. So you'd be looking at a park that's somewhere between maybe a quarter mile and a mile service area for each park. The location and the parkland that the district would accept would be something that you'd be able to kind of pick and choose. We wouldn't be looking for unbuildable lands such as deep topography, wetlands, floodplain, the stormwater pond, the kind of things that nobody really wants to end up with, right? So we'd be drafting an ordinance that wouldn't allow that type of land to be dedicated without like extreme consent that it's okay for some reason that that's part of the parkland, right? And we'd also be asking for, at any point that's possible, if there's something that's significantly nice in terms of natural features, historic sites, or other community amenities, might be a nice place for the park to be, actually, if there's a nice stand of trees or something there right away. We would be also allowing, say, if I go back a slide, in the areas where maybe a park isn't planned, we would be allowing the fee to still be paid. And if a subdivision is not quite the right place for a park in an area where a park is desired, a fee could be paid as well. The difference would be, as opposed to the homeowner or the home builder, which could just be a random one-off, the developer would then be the one paying the impact fee for this instead of the homeowners that come in. So I have it in bold, the two terms, 5% of those low density subdivisions, that would be like a Keitels, like a Lakewood, a West Hills type area, and then 7% of the higher density, say for example, areas where there's some multifamily apartments and stuff like that. The reason is creating a little bit more open space when people are living a little bit closer together. We would then be changing, like I said, the fee from being a Mandan resident or a builder paying the fee to the developer bringing in all of the land paying the fee in the instance where a parkland dedication is not happening. And we would take the number of low-density residential lots or projected multifamily units to assess a fee, with the understanding being that the plat is not going to be able to be recorded and development is not going to be able to take place until either the dedication has been determined or the fee has been paid. A previous version of this did take a best practice from, I think Moorhead has open space dedication in commercial and industrial subdivisions. We did elect to not take that step with tonight, or with what I'm presenting to you tonight. We didn't quite see exactly how that would work for our community and have the most kind of planning level recommendations in place right now for the residential settings, of course. And maybe at some point we'll think of ways to have parks in the industrial areas, but until then, this seems like more of a priority. Doing just kind of a retroactive case study for an example subdivision in Mandan, development was to cost about, it was going to be 80 acres. Right now we have about 60 lots built today, and the whole master plan would have been for 160 lots upon its total build out. If the 5% dedication was in place, the park district would have just been given 4 acres of land to make a park. There was no dedication in place, and the developers did offer somewhere between 1 and 2 acres for $80,000 to the park district. In a way, it makes it kind of easy to set your price. If you know you're going to bring in 160 homes and the city's going to collect a $500 fee for each of them, why not charge $80,000 for the park? That's how much the development's going to pay in park fees, right? But we could have gotten 4 acres. So the point is you could have gotten a little bit more land, right? Had this been in place. So that's kind of a retroactive analysis for this subdivision. We do have some next steps that we're still kind of working on. I am wrapping on the topic. Right now we do have public and developer engagement going on. I would put a carrot in the city's future land use plan was a public process. It was a very robust engagement process to craft that plan, and it should be treated that the recommendations of that plan have been vetted by the public and have been vetted by boards. We are simply, in some ways, putting in many planning level recommendations that the public has been invited to participate and contribute in just into the ordinance now. So they've kind of already bought into some of this stuff in a way. But we do acknowledge that zoning is a nuanced topic and it can be rehashed, of course. So we do have some ongoing engagement for that. Our goal is to have a code adopted this winter, and we are collaborating with the district some more just to kind of figure out some fine-tuned details, such as how some of these new parks could be financed. It's in some peer communities when money is borrowed to pay for streets and streetlights and storm sewer, maybe that contract can just pay for some of the park stuff as well, and it can be special assessed that way. So we will work on that. I am admittedly on the zoning side of it, not on the financing side of it. So I'll be here to help you with that, though. And there may also just need to be some sort of policy adopted. I think it would maybe be to the benefit of the city and to the park district to just kind of craft a policy saying, in a subdivision where parkland is dedicated, we're going to wait until the 51% of homes have been constructed so the park can come in when we know that the area is filling out, right? Other things could state maybe the types of parkland and the types of equipment that the district is open to maintaining, and maybe that might make it a little bit easier for if a developer or a neighborhood wants to see something that's quite beyond our means in a new subdivision park. It might just be nice to have a policy basis against some of that stuff. And then the other nice thing about policies is we can reference them and they can change a little bit easier than some of these ordinance things that can be kind of a lot of work. So I know I just shared a lot of information. It's been a long time coming. I wanted to, before getting into questions, extend appreciation to Director Hagelund and Wade for helping me understand some of the issues that you guys deal with a little bit more. And maybe as I go into questions, I'll just pull up this screen for a visual aid. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. First of all, Andrew, I know you went zoning and planning and kind of presented them and said this was coming. Have you talked to the city at all about it? I'm sorry, I'm not up to date on all of that. But
President Meshke, yes, I was at the July Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and Commissioner Mutter can attest to that. I think this was received pretty well by the Planning and Zoning Commission for the most part, and that recommendation will go on to our City Commission too.
so I know you talked a little bit about Moorhead. Is this going to, I know that the developers will probably pass the cost on to homeowners anyway, or those that are building and so on. Do you see this as a deterrent for developers coming to Mandan? And as opposed to other communities around us?
President Meshke, I posed the question to the planning manager in Bismarck, as well as some other planners around the state. There aren't any communities that witnessed a noticeable slowdown in development. They did affirm that they're seeing more holistic, well-rounded new developments that are coming in at more of a maybe palatable pace. If they're maybe having to put a little bit more into the upfront, we're maybe not going to deal with as much big booms of homogeneous subdivisions at once, and they might be more right-sized, and we might be able to take them in a little bit more incrementally.
Let me ask the question a little bit more direct. Bismarck does this already,
Yes.
and they have not noticed developers shying away from Bismarck. coming?
That's correct. This
Okay.
is a policy that Bismarck has. I don't believe they have a percentage in their ordinance, they would like to have a percentage from an equity standpoint because it's kind of hard if one developer's doing 3 and one's doing 9, right? But no, I think we could all certainly agree. It does not seem like our peer community is not growing.
Because I think we've been approached to take land, but it was undevelopable. I mean, that it was undevelopable by them, and we weren't going to be able to put a park in there, and that makes it difficult. This will give us a little bit more, I guess, prime real estate that'll allow us to put a nice park, because we're not opposed to putting parks in, I don't think. I mean, it's in our name, but it's been more difficult. And then when we're approached and the price is this much, it kind of really, it puts us in a tough spot. So I think that we would see more development, obviously, from the Park District side if some of that land is dedicated, so.
And President Meshke, I'd return to the points around, there's a lot of white papers in the planning world that speak to maintaining property values around parks, homes selling faster near parks, homes selling for more around parks. It's really desirable to be by them. I did get a couple other questions that I want to make sure I just answered. In the case where, say, the city needs land and the Park District needs land, I think this fix is really just for open space and recreation. We're more likely to run into a need for parks and open space land in new subdivisions than we are, say, for city operations, for example. And I don't know if any cities are really focusing on that. I think we'll continue to just kind of be out on the market if we need a new fire station or if we need a new public works facility. I don't think we need to make a fix for that right now, and I don't see us competing in that way. In the case where land is not to be dedicated, then yeah, you would be accepting a fee. That's just reiterating the question here, and it would be the same amount as we currently have today. Still being put into a kind of a savings account, for example, and the stipulations on how that money would be spent would generally be the same as they are today for maybe purchasing extra land than that is being dedicated, for maintaining existing parks, and for other kind of parks and rec expenses, with the rationale for that flexibility being that if the fee is being collected because the district and the city did not feel like a park is needed, that area must have some level of park and open space coverage that therefore can be redirected elsewhere. In the case where a developer would have some expectations for what type of park they want developed in their subdivision, I think that's where we would want to lean back on a policy that says, here's what we can handle right now. We can do this, but we're not going to do that quite yet, and that might just be better than putting something into the ordinance.
And I think we've gotten public input even on the ones that I mean, obviously, if there's nobody living out there, we're not going to get public input, but.
Yeah, you definitely have a good idea what your users want.
So President Meskey and Andrew, the question that I posed to Andrew was about similar to what's happened on shores of Lakewood. That developer wants pickleball courts, a splash park, and all these amenities, which I think are great for the development. That's why I threw the question out. If that's what he wants and he could agree that those improvements could be special assessed to that development, now it makes it that much easier for us to be able to construct. Because the way we are today is we're collecting a fee using the dollars for playground equipment and miscellaneous things that benefit the community wide. We're not able to have enough dollars to buy the land. Well, now in this situation, we're going to get the land. Where's the dollars going to be redistributed from to make the improvement if we can't special assess it? So that's kind of where we're just kind of flipping it. We're getting the land, which is the most expensive part, which is good. But now the improvements, if the developer, like we said in the shores of Lakewood, which I think would be great, how are we going to handle that? And the policy, if I'm a developer and I'm coming in with 100 acres like you're seeing north of the middle school, and I'm going to say I want the trail connections, I want the parks and all the miscellaneous things I just mentioned, now we have to be able to say how can we pay for it?
Well, in the draft here too, I see it talks about money going into a special fund maintained by the city. Is that is that your proposal?
Yeah, and the language in here, President Meshke, is subject to change.
Okay.
I think the way that it's drafted is similar to how we are kind of collecting the fee and then it's being spent with your discretion. So we would probably continue to collect it, and then just make sure that it's written into here that that special fund is for your spending.
And I don't think we have a problem with special fund, but if every time we need to go do something or ask for an expense, that now we have to get the city's permission to spend the money that was dedicated towards. So
Yep.
I think it creates more hurdles, and that's what we're elected to do, is build parks, and do these things. So just something to think about it. Not that we need to have the money, but it maybe if it's restricted, they can still have it. But I think we should be able also to spend it on our parks, based upon our decision, collaborating with developers and zoning and planning, and the city commission to get to that.
So President Meshke and Andrew, one of the concerns that we would have is if there's multiple developments going on, today the fee that we receive is just a check that says, whatever, $10,000. We don't know if it came from Northwest or Southeast or Southwest Mandan. We just get the check based on the permit fee. So that's something internally in the planning office that when those dollars are being collected for that area, that they're dedicated for that space.
Right.
Yeah, and
But we get that check though.
And President Meshke, as it is written, we wouldn't be doing too much geographical bounding of where the money is spent. The policy would be written, or the ordinance is written in a manner that basically says that because parkland is not being dedicated, it's maybe implied that that area has coverage from an open space standpoint, and therefore the fee can be spread elsewhere in the community because people do travel to different parks and things like that, as you guys are well aware.
And land is just part of the expense of having a park. That park equipment is very expensive.
Right.
Playground
Yep.
equipment is very expensive. It's very specialized, so.
I was also asked to explain the process just from start to finish, and our intent is to really have this be sorted out really before Planning and Zoning Commission. Like, we could talk about concepts and things like that, but the goal would be for your part of this process to really be done before the city Planning and Zoning, City Commission process gets too far down the road. I think that's one of the issues that we ran into is we have developers that want to go as fast as the city process will let them, and we're trying to figure out public noticing for board meetings and park board meetings and your decisions and our decisions. Doesn't really leave us a lot of time. So I think if we have it in a situation where prior to submitting your preliminary plat application to the city, this must be done, that the developer has to have met with people from the park district to determine the approach that the district would like to take regarding fee or land in areas where these parks are planned, I think is going to help a lot in kind of cultivating that culture of submitting and developing kind of more holistic, well-rounded projects. Are there any other questions for me?
Oh, I have one, and it's much more. I've heard from people in Bismarck complain about their taxes because they've got these parks and they've got all these specials. Is there a way that we can cap some of that so we're not hurting the people in our community? Like, because I can see these developers going completely wild and want a splash pad and pickleball courts and this and that. Is there a way that we can cap to, so we're not hurting the citizens for property taxes or specials? I hate to see somebody have $100,000 specials on a house.
Yeah, Commissioner Mutter, I think what I can do is I can continue to work with Director Higlin on understanding kind of some of the pinch points that they might be dealing with across the river, understanding how they're really paying for them once they get the land for free, who's paying for the park. I think there are some options there. And one of the things that might be able to help just kind of from the hip would be that phased in aspect of it, where it's not expected to create a whole bunch of resources out of nowhere, and maybe give you guys some time to let things bankroll a little bit, so that when the park comes in, there's less of an impact to the taxpayer. But Director Halen, I don't know. We'll work on it.
Thank you.
Anything else for Andrew? No?
Andrew, thank you for all you've done, by the way.
Thank you. And
wrapping
we
this
want
up
this
and
to
go.
be collaborative too. I mean, I hope it doesn't look like the Park District is doing this because we want land and we want money. No, that's not the case. We want to work together with with the city in providing the parks maybe that you showed on the map at some point. But just to have probably more of a laid out approach to figuring that out before and not trying to buy land after. That I think, Commissioner Mutter, costs us more money. And by doing this, it may save in the long run that we're getting land donated to us. Because that 1 acre, somebody came in at originally it was $160,000 for that acre they wanted us to pay, which we want, fine, we put a park there, but then the park itself, the playground equipment itself is another $250,000. So if we can find a good plan to get those in the plats, I think that will help tremendously. And knowing that we can't put a park every year, we can't be putting a new park in, but if we can phase those in would be, I think, doable, because I think we have money to put playgrounds in. So, but thank you for working on this. I know you're trying to tame a lot of entities here and get everybody on the same page, and that might be tough, but maybe after a couple different drafts, we're going to get there. So
I'm up for the challenge, President Meshke. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 3, some construction project updates. Cole Ferris Field.
Yep, so I'm just going to kind of give you quick tidbits on each one. If you have questions, I'll stop after each one. But as far as Ferris Field, I would say it's probably about 85 to 90% complete. All of the chain link, all of the underground irrigation has been put in. Some heads got to be installed along with some connection to the watering source. Girls Fast Pitch was out there the last couple weeks. That was their project to put in the concrete for the dugouts and the batting cages. They subbed that out to a contractor. They were going to pay for that, but with their gaming, there's kind of a little bit of a lag in regards to their payments to the park district for that. So we took the lead on that. I had talked to President Meshke about that. We have a contract signed with the Mandan Girls Fast Pitch. We basically ordered our project for $15,000, but the Girls Fast Pitch Club will pay us back as their gaming allows each month. They have until December 15th to reimburse us, so there was no concerns with that. Hopefully we will see the seeding happen here. Obviously, with the heat that we had in July, we weren't too excited about getting it seeded anyways. So we're probably going to see that happen in the next 2 weeks. And then hopefully this fall and into the spring, we'll be able to get that grass to grow there at Ferris Field. As far as youth baseball complex, if you haven't gone down there, diamonds 9 and 10, all of the chain link have been removed. A lot of the sod and agar lime and all that's been removed. You'll start seeing the chain link on diamonds 11 and 12 come down the rest this week. The backstops were taken down today. With no chain link down there, it's a large piece of land. It's definitely changed the landscape of how it looked from before. But it's what you'll see in the next few weeks really is just going to be a lot of demo work, and then start hauling some of the sand and the materials associated with the synthetic turf. That project, as we mentioned, will be hopefully substantially done by November 15th, so we can get the fields in, and then we have until, I think it's the end of April, for any fine tuning as far as things that need to be completed in there. But that thing's moving along pretty quick, and we started having our meetings every other week. Highway 6 trail, if you haven't driven out there from Mandan Municipal south to 19th Street, that's our new trail that we received grant funding in. It's completed. We have our walkthrough tomorrow. It's been seeded. It turned out very nice. It's a nice addition to connecting our trail system and kind of getting that southwest part of Mandan connected. Along with the 19th Street trail, there was a section there that was put in too low. We got that repaired as part of this project, and it's been built up, and it rained on Wednesday or Thursday last week, so I drove out there to make sure, and it drained properly. So very happy that was able to get completed. So Highway 6 and 19th Street trails are completed. The only issue we have left on 19th Street would be Phase 1, which is that section from Fort Lincoln Elementary School west down to Macedonia. There's some landscaping and drainage issues that still are, I guess, trying to get addressed there, and hopefully that the city can resolve those ones. And then the last thing we have is Rough Rider and Legion Park new playground equipment. Legion Park, the equipment is installed. What we have left at Legion Park, Dustin mentioned here today, was some fall protection, some curbing, along with some ADA sidewalks leading up to that. Hopefully have that done in another week or two. And then Rough Rider Park should be starting as we talk this week, the installation of the equipment. So things are moving. It's a time of year. Trying to get everything wrapped up before freeze up. But any questions you may have for me on the construction projects?
Questions for Cole? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Okay, and then we've gone through our preliminary budget for 2025, and Terry is here to present the 2025 budget. Hi, Terry.
Good evening, President Meshke and Commissioners. The preliminary 2025 budget was approved at your special meeting on July 29th of 2024. And I'm going to see if I can get the slides up on the screen here. Okay, here we are. All right, so starting with the recap by fund. First of all, in the 2025 budget recap, the general fund budget is just under 6.9 million in revenue and 7.2 million in expenses. The reason for the deficit spending here in the general fund was the decision to make our next 5-year equipment purchase using general fund cash reserves rather than financing this expense. And within the general fund, fees and charges account for 46% of the revenue. Property taxes are 38%. State aid is 8%, and other and donations are another 8% of general fund revenue. And then also just summarizing all funds, 9.9 million in revenue and also about 9.9 million in expenditures. So then looking at full-time salaries and benefits. Here you're going to see a comparison of the full-time salaries and benefits from 2023 to 2025. And looking at our 2025 budget, it comes to a total of $2.6 million. And this includes the addition of one new full-time position. That's a shared maintenance position between the sports complex and parks. And also in the 2025 budget is a 3% cost of living, 3% cost of living increase and an additional 1 to 2% merit for eligible employees. So with our health insurance that we switched in 2022 from North Dakota PERS plan to the high deductible health plan with North Dakota Fit, we are also able to offer health savings accounts, and we are seeing a significant savings due to our high deductible health insurance plan and our low loss ratio. So in 2025, we're seeing just an increase of 2.97% in premiums. Okay, and then the next two slides I have are the capital outlay items by department that are budgeted for 2025. They come to a total of $676,000. I'm not going to go through each one for you. However, you should have received this presentation in your board packet, and I will also have these slides on the website tomorrow if you would like to review them in greater detail. And then we'll move on to 2025 debt service and special assessment payments. These are a list of what we currently have budgeted for 2025, and just a few highlights I'm going to make on these is that, just as a reminder, the debt payment for the Mandan Rodeo Arena is funded completely through donations and pledges from outside sources. And the Mandan Tennis Center is also completely covered. The debt payment is covered by the lease that we have with the limited liability company that runs the operations there. And then finally, looking at that Raging Rivers facility debt payment, that is our final payment on that facility in 2025. So looking at our property taxes now, here's a comparison 2024 actual and what we're budgeting for 2025. The budget in 2025 for the general fund is $2,848,972. Our special assessment fund is $342,260. The general obligation bond fund, and this is for refinanced special assessments from, I believe it was 2021 or 2022, that's $112,250. And then in the capital improvement fund, $684,520 for a total of $3,988,002. This does exceed the previous year's levy by $246,000, and that is due to an increase in the value of the mill. So, looking at our levy in terms of mills, the previous year's mill value One mill was $128,464, and the estimated mill value for the 2025 budget is $136,904. That's an increase of about 6.5%, and because of this increase, we did not have to raise mills. Therefore, we are showing 29.13 mills levied for the current year tax collections, and we're remaining steady at 29.13 mills for the 2024 levy, which is reflected in the 2025 budget tax collections. And when you look here at all of the taxing entities, the state, county, city, schools, and park districts, for the current year's budget, the park district currently accounts for 10% of the entire levy. So that means for every dollar in local property taxes collected, 10 cents goes to the park district. This slide shows the computation of the park's share of property taxes on an average home valued at $300,000. And this shows how you go from the true and full value down to the taxable valuation on which the property taxes are calculated. Because we haven't raised mills, there will be no increase in park property taxes on a residential property that has not had a valuation increase in the past year. However, in the past year, the average market increase for residential properties was 5%. So this example now shows a property that was previously valued at $300,000 with a 5% market increase is now valued at $315,000. Therefore, this taxpayer will see an increase in park property taxes of $20 a year. Again, this is due to market value increases on their home, not the park district increasing mills. And then finally, we'll look at the budget calendar. Just as a reminder, by August 31st, you should receive written notice. All property owners within Mandan will receive a notice of their estimated taxes, property taxes for the coming year, along with a list of the date and time and location of all the public hearings. And our public hearing on the budget will be September 9th, 2024. So this concludes my presentation of the 2025 budget. I will have this PowerPoint posted on the website tomorrow. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Terry?
No, thanks.
Thank you, Terry. All right, we are going to add one item. We want to apparently we have to pay some bills, so we're going to add our monthly bills to item number 5. So could we?
I'll make a motion to pay our monthly bills.
All right, motion by Commissioner Milhoff,
I'll second. Okay.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Future meeting dates, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be September 9th. At that point, we will also have a public hearing, like Terry said, on our 2025 budget here at City Hall at 5:30. Any other reports? Cole or Terry? Arlen? No? Lane?
I was going to say welcome back, Kelly. She's been on maternity leave for how many weeks now, was it? 12 weeks. She's back. Today was her first day. I sent her a text message saying, welcome back. Kind of like a welcome back harder thing. But anyway, welcome back, Kelly.
Commissioner Freilich?
I've got nothing.
Commissioner Milhoff?
No report.
With that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.